Let's fix this Honda
So now
mower
we can
that
move
won't
on to the
start.
won't start aspect. So if you see my last few videos, you know that we had the muffler bolt break off, that the customer broke off into the block from taking off the muffler. So now we can move on to the won't start. So let's get going on that. First things first, let's give it a couple pulls and see what happens. It does have gas and it does have oil. All right, so that didn't work. So now let's give it a little bit of candy and see what that does. All right, confirmed. We do have a fuel system problem, so we're going to go ahead and start tearing into this carburetor. All right, let's start tearing into this thing now. First things first, let's remove these two screws. Those were tight. Wow. Pop those bad boys out. We're going to unhook our crankcase breather here. And then let's go ahead and remove this gasket here. Clean it off a little bit. We're going to go ahead and shut off that fuel valve. We can leave the other gaskets there, no reason to remove them. If we do remove them, they're probably going to break. We'll go ahead and undo this hose clamp here, and then let's kind of break the bead on that fuel line. I'm going to go ahead and blow it off so none of that dirt gets inside. Go ahead and blow that off. And then we'll slide off this carburetor here, like so. And then we'll slide off this linkage. Now we'll go ahead and open her up. All right, let's go ahead and check the quality of the fuel here. Let's undo the bowl nut. And as you can see, that fuel is pretty disgusting. So, as you can see there, that's some pretty bad gas. Now let's go ahead and knock off the bowl here. Like so, and you can see that gas is pretty bad, and this is honestly not too terrible, so we should be able to clean this one up here and throw it back into it. But the carburetor itself was pretty cheap anyways, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace this one and call it a day. But this is definitely 100% rebuildable, but I already quoted the customer a new carb either way, so in the end, this one is cheaper to replace than it is to rebuild. All right, and before we install our new carburetor, one of the most important steps is right here, and that is draining the old gas out. So make sure you're doing this. I see so many people try to DIY the carb and never change out the fuel, and the machine does the same thing that it did before, and this is why right here. All right, now let's go ahead and fill it up with some ethanol-free gas. And I'm gonna leave the valve open. That way any of the stagnant fuel that was in it can just flow right out at first, so you're not introducing old or bad gas to the carburetor as the first type of fuel. All right, we'll go ahead and remove that. All right, and here's the part number for the replacement carb. Always refer to your service manual. All right, so first we're going to connect our throttle linkage here and our anti-surge spring. And then we'll go ahead and connect our fuel line and then reinstall our clamp. This is how you do it. You use the pliers, one for each little loop there, and then you twist and slide it on. I see a lot of mechanics struggle with that hose clamp, but I've been doing this a very long time. Then slide your two fasteners in here, screws, bolts, whatever you want to call them. And then our gasket will go on like so. And then we'll slide it through here, through the carburetor itself. And at this point, I'll go ahead and connect the crankcase breather, like so. And then we will slide our screws in. And then we will thread in these bolts here, or screws, like so. And my role is I always put a brand new air filter unless it already has a brand spanking new one. All right, now we'll go ahead and throw our air filter on here. Like so. And we'll go ahead and open up that fuel valve. And then we'll throw our cap back on. Now let's give her a rip. All right, this is gonna be the first pull, but it may surge a little bit because it's a brand new carburetor. Once those jets get full of fuel, it should go away, but let's give her a rip. All right, as you can see, it started right up. I did notice the self-propel was very weak, but I'll adjust this cable and do some other things to it to see if I can help that, just to go an extra mile. But he did not mention anything of that, so we're gonna go ahead and give this back to the customer. A quick $100 bill right in my pocket.